I'm not around, have you found I'm always on your mind? And when you hear my name, does it sound the same as you felt when you heard it last time? Do you see flowers in my hair that aren't really there? Do you feel the pain when I'm blue? And when you see me, does it seem to be that blues change to life in bloom? 'Cause this is how I see you, and these are the things you do. You may not know, so I'm telling you so, the best way I know how to. Hello and welcome everyone to the Boiling Point Podcast Live. We are finally back from our Christmas break, and we have a very, very special episode for everybody who tunes in tonight. Kevin Leis, singer from Rockfarmer, and John Jennings, guitarist from Rockfarmer. And if you're wondering why Rockfarmer is important, it's because these are bandmates of Marcus Frederiksen, who handles the music, the in and out music of everything we do here on the Boiling Point Podcast, almost everything we do on the Boiling Point Podcast. And Marcus plays the in and out music on every show we do for our sister show, Mayhem Media. And now we get to round out our Marcus Frederiksen trilogy. I did one with my executive producer where we talked about Marcus. I did one with Marcus' sister where we talked about Marcus, and now we get to talk to his former bandmates about Marcus, rounding out what will be the Marcus Frederiksen Memorial Trilogy. Kevin and John, welcome to the Boiling Point Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you guys on and have a conversation. So you guys, now, if anybody who doesn't know, anybody who's watching doesn't know Marcus Frederiksen, he reached out to me shortly after I started the Boiling Point Podcast, and he also, like me, he has arthrogryposis, and so we hooked up, and I just happened to have a show, and he just happened to have music, so I actually just happened to be looking for music, and it's actually really crazy because it was actually just that day almost that I was starting to look for music because it was time. We had done a couple episodes, we needed in and out music, we needed a real entrance, a real closing, and we needed music. So I had just started looking for music, and then Marcus messaged the page and was like, "Hey, you have arthrogryposis?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. How'd you know that?" And it went from there, and found out he was a musician, and now we use his music. So you guys, former bandmates, Rockfarmer was the name of the band.
Yep.
So how did you guys get to hook up with Marcus?
Well, I'll let John start that because he knew Marcus before I did.
Okay, John, you go back a little further. Then how did you end up meeting Marcus?
Well, I just graduated high school, and one of my friends introduced me to Marcus because he knew I played guitar, and I was looking for people to play with.
And he played.
And I went over and played with Marcus. He seemed incredibly talented. I didn't know anything about him really. I didn't know he didn't have any feet at the time or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just thought he was a short guy that walked funny. I didn't know.
Yeah. And he was good enough musician that you decided to start playing with him.
The first night I met him, we didn't really play, but yeah, I just, just kind of we were both kind of learning to play at the time. So for me, it was more about he was somebody I got along with, and
yeah,
good attitude. You got people musicians in particular. A lot of musicians are kind of hard to deal with. So
yeah.
I just wanted to have a good time, and it seemed like we had a good chemistry going. So we eventually formed a band of our own, after about a year, and that kind of graduated to a 3-piece that we had, and for probably at least 2 or 3 years we were called Triple Play. And
okay,
then Marcus got married and he moved to Colorado, and the band kind of dissolved with that. And then I started the other band with Well, I joined this other band that Kevin was in, and we
Jason Jennings.
Sorry.
No problem. That's what a live episode's about.
But anyway, kind of lost my train of thought.
Yeah, that's all right. So, I mean, I find that going back to your original point there, I find that most people, not just musicians, are, a-holes, and I don't want to deal with them in a general sense anyway. I find, you know what I mean? The people I have on the show are mostly great, but, when you're out there in the world, there's a lot of real, a-holes out there. So I find that that's general across the board, not just with musicians. So Kevin, how did you get into the band then? When did you join up with John and Marcus?
When, like John was saying, he joined a band that I was in and had been in, and we were recording. We were in the middle of recording, and he added a whole lot to the project. In the end, out of no fault of ours, the whole project ended up crashing after we had spent all kinds of money on it, recording and studio time and stuff. So it crashed, and one of the guys made off with the master tapes. We still don't have them to this day. So out of that, John and I decided we'd form our own band, and we would work on original music. So off NAR, there was players coming in and out, just shuffling in and out. It seemed like nobody wanted to play with us. They had other ideas for their songs or for the songs we had written or the styles, the country or heavy metal or whatever. And John and I kind of stuck to our guns. So we were really desperate kind of for a drummer. And John had heard that Marcus was coming back to town from Colorado after a divorce.
Actually, I talked Marcus into coming. He had no reason to come back to town, but other than our band.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Now, where you say back to town? Where is that? Where were you guys at that time?
Casper, Wyoming, where I'm still at.
Esther, Wyoming.
Casper.
Oh, Casper. I'm sorry. Casper, Wyoming. And he lived in Vegas at the time.
No,
yeah.
He lived in. He was actually in Denver when.
Denver, he traveled.
Worst, and he was in Denver.
Man, he traveled all over the place, didn't he?
Computer place.
From Wyoming, lived in Las Vegas, lived in Denver. He was all over the place.
Well, when he was married, he lived in Greeley, I believe.
I don't even know where that is.
It's somewhere close to Denver, kind of.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. See, I mean, I only got to know Marcus for about a year, and while we did get to talk, most of it was not usually about our past too much. Just it was more about how we lived our life with the disease. So meeting you guys, I got to learn a lot more about him.
Yeah.
It's funny that John came to me after he talked to Marcus about coming up and playing in the band, and he said, well, I've got us a drummer. He said there's one hitch. He said he doesn't have any feet. And I thought, okay, well, this will be interesting. Little did I know Marcus was a force of nature. Yeah. It was just very inventive. As drummers go, a lot of them can be a really solid drummer and keep a really good, consistent beat, but very few of them have the imagination to be inventive and creative. But Marcus was very creative, and it added another element to the band, I think, anyway. I don't know. What do you think, John?
Oh, and Marcus was a great drummer. He had technical limitations, because he couldn't play technically. Just
he had to develop his own way.
But yeah, he definitely was very, very good, and he could do things a lot of other drummers couldn't. So we had this band started for probably a year before Marcus entered, and we were going through all kinds of bass players and drummers, and I told Kevin this was the answer to our problems, because I knew what Marcus could do because I'd played with him, for several years.
Yeah.
And I was just I told Marcus he wouldn't regret it because we had something good going, and I know that's what I knew that he would have. It was just a good fit. I'm not very good at talking.
Yeah, no, it's all good. No, I understand what you're saying. He was just like you and Kevin obviously have a chemistry, and you and Marcus obviously have a chemistry, and you knew that Marcus and Kevin would have a chemistry, so you felt the band would be complete with him, and I think that's great that
I
you
knew
were
we
able
were
to
all
find.
like-minded with the same goal.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be their own man these days. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to, like Kevin was saying, all the bandmates you guys were having, everybody wants to do their own style or do what they want to do. It's very similar in podcasting. I've tried to reach out to other podcasters and stuff and work with them. On the entertainment side of things, I've met some people who want to work, and do things, but on the Boiling Point podcast side here, it's really hard to find anybody who wants to do something that you're doing. You know what I mean? Even though I'm willing to do, help them out too. You know what I mean? But you don't find people who want to do what you want to do. They want to do what they want to do, and that's it. They're not willing to adjust what they want. Everybody wants to be their own man these days. I say that.
Well,
I say that a lot because
everybody
true.
wants to bring their own input, and we actually welcome that, and that's what made our music truly original, in my opinion.
I agree.
You let everybody put their own
Exactly
spin on how they want to play things.
You have to be willing to collaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem with today, and that I've noticed in today's world. And I even went back when you guys tried to form your band, was that everybody wants to be their own man. They want to be their own guy. They want to make the decisions. And if you want to collaborate, if you want to work with people, you have to be willing to do that.
Right.
I just want to play. I don't want to make decisions anymore.
Yeah, I understand that.
I'm done with that part of it.
I feel that way. I feel that way oftentimes with my podcasts, because I'm like, man, sometimes I'm just like, man, someone else decide. I don't want to be the decider anymore. But that's the way it is. Kevin, I imagine that's the way it is. You're the singer, and it seems like you're kind of the leader of, from what I've gathered with talking to you guys, not just here, but before we did the show, seems like you were the leader, or at least you and Marcus were more of the leader than that. No offense to you, John, but you're, like you said, you just want to play.
Now, I wouldn't say I was the leader, and I wouldn't say Marcus was the leader or John wasn't the leader. I would say that we all three made decisions together. And at that point, you have to remember, this was 20 years ago, and we were a lot younger men then. And John had as much or more fire in him than Marcus and I did. I mean, the things that this guy's come up with is incredible. And then with his relationship and past with Marcus, those two clicked. All I did was just jump on and enjoy the ride.
So you guys were a real trio then, a real, nobody was above the others. You guys were a legitimate band, a straight trio band.
We had two other members also.
Oh, okay.
At one point we was a trio because two of our members quit, which is why we initially made our CD, was so that we could teach new people to play our songs.
Right. So in the studio, it was just John and Marcus and I. But when we got out of the studio, we knew in order to go out and do CD release party and do things like this, we needed other musicians to back us up. We weren't a power trio.
Now, for people who don't know, anybody who's watching who doesn't know, why were the three of you not enough to go and play live shows or do that kind of thing? What was it that you needed from other musicians?
I needed two more of me, basically. You needed another bass player and another guitar player.
Yeah, John played all the bass, did background vocals, all rhythm, all lead, all acoustic guitars. That was all John. Marcus played the drums, did background vocals, and of course I had the easy part. I just came in and sang the songs. So John, a lot harder than Marcus, I think, in the studio and coming up with various parts and stuff. The Rockfarmer album was significant, and it, still today we can get together and draw people in after 20 some years, because we filled a niche, I think, that Casper didn't even know it needed. We weren't a cover band, we weren't a country band, which is something that in Wyoming. We were a hard rock band, and we were an old blue jean band.
Yeah, and I think every area kind of needs one of those bands you know, and when an area doesn't, I mean, you guys played local shows and stuff. You guys probably got a good local following. I mean, or a very strong local following, I would imagine after a couple of years or even a couple of weeks. I mean, I've listened to your music. I mean, or at least Marcus's music. I'm sorry, I haven't gotten the chance to listen to too much of the Rockfarmer music yet. But I've listened to a couple of songs, and you guys got good music. You know what I mean? It's good. I enjoy it.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to work with these guys to try and get their music digitalized and available somewhere online so that it can be enjoyed by the masses. So as soon as we get that set up, stay tuned to the Boiling Point Podcast Facebook page. And do you guys have a public Rockfarmer page, or is it just the group page that you guys invite people to?
Well, we have the Facebook. I think it's called Rockfarmer public page.
Okay, so yeah, check out Rockfarmer on Facebook. It's a public page that you should just be able to follow, and I'm sure that once we get the music digitalized and available to everybody, I'm sure they'll post on there about it too. So make sure you look for that. But yeah, we're trying to get Marcus's music is available online at reverbnation.com/Marcus Frederiksen, and share out your favorite song, tag us. You know, we want to know what your favorite song is, and as soon as we get Rockfarmer's music up there digitally, we will start pushing their music as well. And Kevin and John have given us permission, the Boiling Point Podcast permission to use some of their songs in our various stuff. So we're hopefully going to be using some of their songs either with new shows or we're going to change things.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be using it for something. The Boiling Point Podcast, we're going to have a big year this year. We're looking to expand this year, even if it's just in other independent shows under the Boiling Point Podcast flag. And I like every show to have its own entrance and exit. So I'm very, very excited and grateful that we got together and that you guys are going to let me use your music for it. Because I love Marcus's music, but I have made a couple different openings and closings for the Boiling Point Podcast. I've gone through a couple of different songs of his, and there's only, you know what I mean? There's only so much more that I could do if I want to keep reusing the same music. You know what I mean? It's nice to have some fresh music now that we can debut with some new shows and stuff.
Sure.
That'll be really awesome.
And by the way, when you go to the Rockfarmer public page on Facebook, you will we get together every so often for shows still to this day. And then after Marcus passed, we got together for a show. When was it, John? Like September of last year?
Yeah, September 30th or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did do a Rockfarmer show, and that, I think the show is there in its entirety.
Okay, that's great. I don't even think I noticed that when I was on your guys' page. And yeah, you guys, now that's something. Have you guys done that 2 years in a row now?
Actually, I wasn't able to do it last year. I was diagnosed with cancer and had to have major surgery.
Okay.
So I was able to do it. But John represented. The tribute show is to Marcus every year is through his sister Mia.
Yeah, Mia. Yeah, she's been on the show before. She's the Boiling Point Podcast's senior public safety correspondent.
There you go.
So she has 2 episodes. We did about firemen and fires, and one about police and highway safety. And I'm going to get her on one more time to do one on EMTs. So we're going to round out the trilogy with that as well. So,
does she wear a uniform?
No, she hasn't worn a uniform yet, but I'll maybe I'll harass her to be on to put her uniform on the 3rd show. Shout out to Mia there.
Hey, Mia.
Comment. So how long did you guys actually all play together? You, John, the 3 of you, you guys and Marcus.
With this, the Rockfarmer, probably. Well, I continued on after Rockfarmer broke up. Me and Marcus started another band where we played. I've played with Marcus quite a bit in my life.
Okay.
Probably 10 years at least.
Rockfarmer probably lasted what, John? 2 years, 3 years?
It may be 3.
Yeah.
And Marcus wasn't there for, probably 3.5 years, and Marcus is probably only in it for 2.5 years.
We we were short-lived, but we made a big splash.
Yeah.
We were on the radio stations. We were not only were the songs played, but we were in and out doing interviews with different DJs and stuff. And as a matter of fact, there was the most popular DJ in town in Casper, Rude Dog. Shout out to Rude Dog if he's listening, which who knows. We had to pay him, but he came to the CD release party and did a live broadcast. And that party was wild. It was huge. People were standing outside in line trying to get in, but we were at fire code in the building. We just couldn't get anybody else in there. Yeah,
that's nice. Yeah, I mean, when you reach the fire limit, then that's a good show.
You bet. But it was a fun ride. You know, it wasn't long, but when you think of it at that age and life and everything else, 3 years was a pretty decent amount of time. I wish it had been 30. And I feel responsible for the breakup of Rockfarmer. But it was never truly a breakup because, every 3, 4, 5 years we got together anyway over the decades.
Yeah. And, that happens with life. You meet people, you get married, you have kids. Sometimes, life just gets in the way once in a while. That's just the way it is.
Well, drugs have to do with it. So don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just
excuse me for a minute. My phone's going to die. I'm going to have to plug it in, I think.
Okay. Go ahead. Kevin, we got the I had that song. Did you want to play some of that song did you want me to play some of that song for everybody or?
Sure. We talked earlier. Before you do that, let me kind of give a prelude to it. This song was written about the guy that made off with the master tape in John and I's previous band.
Okay.
It was some of the best music I'd ever written because it was, that I was ever a part of because it was my freshman effort. So I had all my life before that, to draw from. So I really put it all in there. We really thought this was going to be something, and we had no idea it would crash and burn. So this song is called Out of My Head, and it's basically about the relationship between me and this guy that made off with this material because he and I had played together for like 10 years.
Okay. All right. Out of My Head is the name of the song. Now this is the first time we're trying music on the podcast, everybody, or at least music that's not its own separate clip. So we're going to see how this works. So if you're listening, if there's people listening and you can't hear the music or it's too loud, please let me know because this is the first time that we're attempting something like this, trying something new. So let's see how this goes.
good look at your reflection and spare us all this moral aggravation. Success was in our hearts, but you blew it all apart. Now I can't make a connection. No, I can't make a connection. No, I'd rather not be here. Someone here in my stead. You give me any good reason to get you out of my head. Get you out of my head. Get you out of my head.
All right, that was Out of My Head by Rockfarmer. We have a couple of viewers. Thank you for commenting. Oh, of course, it's playing again now because I didn't hit the button. So that's my bad, everybody. There we go. Thank you for commenting. Ms. Paul, my executive producer, is tuning into the show, and he liked the song. He said it's very relatable. If you didn't see, I put it up on the screen. John, I think you plugged your phone in and you're on the phone, so I think we're not going to be able to hear you. You're going to probably have to leave the studio and come back in. That is a problem I've experienced before, because when I saw you come back in and sat down, you said, "I'm back," but we didn't actually hear any sound from you. So you're going to have to leave.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I lost sound for a minute, and
Okay.
that's
my bad then. So
I guess I hooked up to my car's Bluetooth, I guess, is what happened.
Okay. Well, then there we go. It's all good.
I don't know why this is.
So Kevin, that's a great song, Out of My Head, and that's the kind of music that I like. I think that's why I like your guys' music and Marcus's music. I like that, like, rock music, but not heavy metal music.
Yeah. There's a few songs on the album that have a little bit more of an edge to them, but we like that every now and then. You know, Cutting Loose, especially John. He's damn near a virtuoso at guitar, and when
Marcus was a rocker.
It's a barn burner when John gets on fire.
Well, thank you. But Marcus rocks too. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just saying Marcus was a rocker. He liked the heavy music.
Yeah. And I don't know if your audience paid attention to the fact that the drums in that were so unique and original. And this is all coming from a guy with a pretty serious disability, you know.
Yeah.
He just never let him, that never stopped him, ever. So, yeah, you know, I'm proud to say that I made a lot of good music with Marcus.
Yeah. That's something that Marcus and I have in common, is that we didn't let our disease get in the way of doing whatever we wanted to do.
Right.
So it's not surprising that he.
You know, I'm a singer with one lung, so there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Rockfarmer, it seems to be the band of overcoming things is what you guys were built upon, it seems like.
Yeah, John had the hardest disability, and that's playing with us.
Yeah.
I never considered Marcus disabled.
That's
he could do a lot of things normal people couldn't do, you know.
Sure.
As far as picking up on things, he learned how to play guitar from watching me teach people how to play. So, you know, he just he'd pick up on it super fast. You know, of course, he had to do stuff a little different technically. But yeah, he had to have had a high IQ because he picked up on things really fast.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, my friends, I've heard my friends say the same thing about me, that they don't look at me like I'm disabled. So I have no doubt that you guys didn't see Marcus that way or anything like that. But I think, and I'm not going to speak for Marcus because, like I said, we didn't get to know each other very, very, very well. But I think when you are disabled, you reach a point where you do have to accept it, and there are going to be some limitations. You know what I mean? Even though you don't want them to get in the way, there will be some limitations. I'm not going to play football, for example. You know what I mean? I'm not going to play for the NFL. That's not going to happen. So just adding a little humor there. That was meant to be more humorous than it was.
No, I would agree with John, JD. I never really looked at Marcus as disabled. We were all just musicians, and I respected in the band for their musicianship. I mean, for instance, we were talking, there was only 3 of us in the studio. John had the lion's share of work. But when we got out and we wanted to play live, we had to have musicians. So there was this one guy, he was, I called him a kid at the time. He was younger than I was. That I had sung at this guy's wedding and had no idea that he even played guitar. And he ended up being our rhythm player. So shout out to Tej Gates and his beautiful wife, Becky, because he's the one that supplied you with that sample of a song.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And it was I'm glad we were able to get that.
And then the bass player that we got was even younger. I mean, he was truly a kid. I mean, how old was Tim, John? Maybe 20, 21?
I think he was 18.
Okay, 18. And he played bass for us. His name is Tim Knight, and he still plays bass when we get together for shows to this day, and so does Teach. So, it was really sad when we went into rehearsals for this last one, for me anyway, because I hadn't been at the one before that. But, I could feel the absence of Marcus because of the style he played,
Yeah.
God loved the drummer that stepped, that had to step into his shoes, no pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah.
Williams, because he had a lot to shoulder. Mark said he was a force of nature.
Yeah, that's something I wouldn't. You've found a brave drummer. I'll give him that. Whoever you got to fill in is brave, because I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing to do.
He's just
Go ahead, John. Say again.
I say he's just super talented, the guy that filled in for him.
He is.
Yeah.
Steve Williams. Shout out to Steve Williams. Absolutely. He usually plays in a country band, and it's the band that John fills in for every once in a while, right, John?
Yeah.
And that's how, because John had to do all this, JD. I'm in the mountains of Colorado. Tej is in Nevada, not Vegas. He's around Reno, and John and Tim are the only ones that are left in Casper. So when we get together for these reunions, poor John, he's got to pull everybody together. He's got to find the musicians. He's got to rehearse them. But I try to come up some for rehearsals, but it's a 5-hour drive for me one way. So it's not like I can make every Friday night's rehearsals. So I mean, John really has been the glue that's held the memory of Rockfarmer together.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad, John, that you have done that so that we can do this episode and get your music and all that stuff. So thanks from me for being the glue.
No problem. I've been called worse.
I think we've all been called worse.
Yeah.
So what is next for Rockfarmer, if anything? Are you guys going to do another reunion show this year?
I don't think we're going to do one this year, but maybe next year we'll do one of the Marcus Frederiksen annual. I don't even know what she calls it.
Yeah, actually, me neither, off the top of my head. You guys aren't going to do that this year, though. You don't think it'll just you guys just gotta wait till next year?
Will still take place.
I'm sorry. Say again, Kevin.
We just play it this year.
Right.
Just
Hold on, everybody. Everybody. We're all talking at the same time, and we're missing some of the words. So,
sorry.
Okay, so we're not doing it this year.
Okay.
Number one, because it's a long way for Tej to travel from Nevada. It's not a short distance for me, and rehearsals have to happen months ahead of time, and that again puts it all on John. And I don't want to put that kind of pressure on John. He's got other projects. John's band just opened for the band Hinder.
Nice.
So, I mean, he's got other projects. And so it all comes down to kind of keeping John comfortable and not making him too busy because he works like 1,000 hours a week.
Yes, I know. I mean, I'm definitely aware of that. We had to specially schedule this time so that we could get John on the show. So, John, thank you again for taking the time and taking some of your limited free time and putting up with me and Kevin here on my show.
Well, no problem.
He's been for 20 years, so.
All right, well.
John's got a lot of projects, and I've got a lot of projects. I have a duo that goes out and sings. We're called Rose and the Thorn, with my partner in life, Briggs, and she and I go out and do shows. We do nursing homes and farmers markets and little things like that. And we also record. So we released an album under the name Rose and the Thorn, Just a Number. It's available on iTunes, Apple Music, Pandora, all that stuff. And then I also recorded a solo album under Kevin Michael Leis. It's called Affinity. And then I also recorded a thrash album called Leis and the Madman. And it's called A Tale in Darkness. And that's also available on Pandora and iTunes and Apple Music and all your favorite streaming sites. So we both stay busy.
Yeah, excellent. John, do you want to give any of your bands or current projects a shout out, or anybody?
Well, my current band's named Sidetrack. We just play it. We don't play a whole lot. We just do it to have fun. We're not particularly in it to make money.
Yeah, something tells me John is more modest than.
What was that?
I said something tells me you're more modest than you are anything else, because you're very not. Kevin's talking you up Kevin's talking you up, and every time I throw it to you, you're like, yeah, well,
I'm not comfortable being talked up, but I just the reason why the Rockfarmer thing. I'm the whole reason why we can't do the Rockfarmer this year, because with my job I can't really do more than one band. Just because I work 60 hours a week, and I want to do it 100% if I'm going to do it. So I'm committing to do the Rockfarmer the next 2025, and I'll do it then. And
all right. Well, that sounds good.
It's always fun, and it's always a treat for me to get together with John and Tej and Tim, and there's kind of a heart-touching type of thing, now that Marcus is gone, because I think back a lot to the last reunion we had with Marcus, and he was going to donate his hair to Locks of Love. So we were going to do half the show. We were at a park and it was just packed. So we were going to do half of a show, and then Marcus was going to get his hair cut symbolically for Locks of Love. And the hair shears were dull, and it wouldn't cut his hair. At that point, somebody got a pair of scissors, and they were trying to cut his hair. By the time they got him shaved, it had been like 45 minutes when we took the stage again.
Yeah.
And looking back at Marcus as we started playing again, and he looked like Woodstock, from the Peanuts.
Yeah.
But it was a great show, and I'll forever keep that in my heart, that show, because I know now that's the last show we'll have with Marcus.
Yeah. My executive producer wanted to know why, with all the Marcus conversations I've had with him, why is he just now learning that he was the drummer? Well, the simple answer to that is because you never asked what instrument he played. That's the simple answer. Of course, the long answer is I don't know. I didn't really think about, when I talk about Marcus, I don't think about the specifics. I just kind of talk about him as a person, not as a drummer or
as far as the music that you have from Marcus, he's playing everything.
Yeah,
He's playing guitar and he's doing all of it.
It's crazy. I was under the assumption, like I said, when we talked and stuff, and even when I talk about him, it's not, we always talked about like each other as people and stuff, not about the specifics. Like we never really asked about the podcast specifically, what I was doing or how it was going. We just kind of talked to each other as people and about life and stuff like that more than anything else. So I think that's why when I talk about him, that's what I talk about, not.
Lights on just a second.
Okay. And I thought his music on Reverb Nation was the band. Like I thought that was his band because he said he had a band, but I thought that was his music. I thought he was the decision maker for it. And then that was his music. I thought I was using the band's music, which is why after he passed, I reached out to his family right away because I wanted to make sure I could still use it on my show. And then it wasn't until Kevin had reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, do you want to hear some more music from Marcus?" And I'm like, "What do you mean there's more music from Marcus?" And that's when I learned that Rockfarmer was actually separate from his music that he has on Reverb Nation. Because that's when I first met him. I did not know that. I definitely did not know that. So yeah, for
everything you have, I'm pretty sure Marcus played every instrument.
Yeah. Everything on his Reverb Nation, I think, is all him. Yeah, it's he does everything. He's playing the guitar, the bass, the drums. He's doing and the vocals. He's doing it all on his Reverb Nation.
That's Marcus. Yeah. That's just Marcus. Like I keep saying, he was a force of nature. Nothing was stopping. Nothing was going to. He was going to keep trying.
Yeah, and I definitely respect that because that's kind of how I am too. If he wanted to do something and he was willing to take on the workload and do whatever was necessary to try and make it work. And I'm the same way with the podcast. I have my buddy, my executive producer, he helps me out a lot. I have another person that really helps me out a lot. Two other people that do help out, but really it's all me. If it, I carry the bulk of it onto my shoulders. So I know I know that feeling and I can relate to that feeling too.
Right. I've always said, grab it and growl.
Absolutely.
Love it and don't let go.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, Marcus is a drummer, but he's not just a drummer, Nick. He's also the he's also plays guitar, he does the bass, and he does the vocals, at least on his channel, on his Reverb Nation channel. And again, for our viewers and for anybody who watches who's watching this later, we are going to get Rockfarmer's music digitalized as well for them. We're going to help with that. So we're going to be trying to figure out how to do that. And then we're going to figure out where we're going to put it or where it's going to go. And that way it's going to be available for everybody.
Unfortunately, we were from the era of streaming. There was the internet, of course, but there was no streaming. This is the days of like LimeWire and things like that. So
Napster was just starting up.
Right. Yeah. So we were before all the technologies that's come since then. That's kind of changed the face of music. So we basically sold the CDs at shows.
Yeah.
Punks at the drive-thru at McDonald's, you name it. We sold them there. And we did.
There was no reason for digital music at that point.
Right. We were critically acclaimed. The newspaper did an article on us and had a lot of good stuff to say about us. And, Rockfarmer was amazing. And my years with Rockfarmer were amazing. And as long as I'm still breathing, anytime that there's a bugle call for a reunion, I'll show up. As long as I'm physically able, I'm going to make it.
You guys need to do an East Coast one, and then I can make it.
Well, let's just see how popular this podcast becomes, and maybe we can afford it at that point.
Yeah. Yes, of course. If if the Blaze calls me or the Daily Wire or somebody calls me and they're like, "Hey, we want to buy your show tomorrow," then I'll go. I can make it wherever.
Heck yeah.
So let's try for that. And Nick, Marcus did have a wide range. I mean, he not only does do the vocals, but like we were talking about, he does all the different instruments.
Yeah, we wanted to do this podcast with JD in memory of Marcus.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'd like to have you guys on again. I mean, we can definitely do another episode then too. I'd like to definitely have you guys on again. Maybe we can we'll have more of your music that we can play. We can talk about a little bit more about Rockfarmer music.
Sure.
But yeah, the reunion show, no reunion show this year.
What John wants to do, and if we do another episode, if that's okay, then we're probably going to drag Tim, our bass player, and Tej, our rhythm player, in with us because they both knew Marcus.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get the whole band on. Absolutely. Yeah. So
lived with Marcus. He was his roommate for a while.
Marcus was my roommate a couple times too.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to say
which one of you put his feet in the freezer?
So he put that idea.
Someone found that funny.
Because I didn't realize. I mean, it was a big joke, but it was something. It wasn't a good thing. And I feel really bad about it.
John.
Oh, it was you then, John?
I did do it once. I'm not sure if I'm the only person that did it, but yeah, he told me about something. At least you didn't put my feet in the freezer or whatever. So I thought it was a harmless prank. I didn't realize it was going to be, quite a big a deal as it was, because it didn't turn out as it wasn't very funny as it turned.
John, can you have somebody turn some lights on? You're in the dark.
Can you turn the light on? Maybe the dining room light.
I don't think he remembers it as a bad thing.
No,
because otherwise I wouldn't have just asked which one of them put his feet in the freezer, because he told me that story. That was actually one of the very few Marcus stories that I did get. Was that one that one of his roommates put his feet in the freezer one time, and it didn't appear to me when he was telling me the story that he was angry about it or had malice. I don't think he would have told it to me if he did.
Sure Marcus was. That just goes to another thing I'd like to say before we're done here is not only was Marcus a really good musician, but he was a genuinely really nice, good person.
Yeah.
I considered him a friend the whole time I known him. He wasn't the type of person that would, he didn't do anything out of malice towards anyone that I can remember my whole time knowing him.
Yeah. And I'm sure he found that even if he might have been angry at the time, I'm sure as he looked back on it, he realized it for what it was just, a practical joke or a prank, and not done out of.
Then it didn't turn out. He wasn't mad at me over that. Like you say, I'm just saying, I was just trying to say that Marcus was really genuine. I'd never met anybody like that, because everybody usually has their moments, and Marcus had his moments, but I don't think he ever did anything. He had not one mean bone in his body.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I got from him too. Yeah. He didn't really.
And he did have a sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely did. We did get to joke a little bit and tell, like I said, tell one or two stories. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten that one.
Well, during the writing of the album, at one point we were up at a cabin. I don't even know whose cabin it was. The mountains at a cabin, and we were working so hard we didn't realize that we were getting snowed in. And the place we had to get out of, you went down and then you went up a steep drive, and we were worried we wouldn't be able to get out of there. And sure enough, we got stuck in the snow, and Marcus just quipped, "Well, I'll get out and push." And for some reason, that just all. We laughed really hard at that, So Marcus had a sense of humor, and I agree with John. he was a really good guy, a genuinely really nice person, and you don't meet those very often.
Yeah, he definitely was. And that's what, like I said, we didn't get to talk a whole lot, just a little bit, but we got to tell a few stories and have a few conversations.
Sure.
And I think the feet thing, he definitely, I think, remembers that as a joke, because I mean, I laughed about it. I mean, I think I asked him, if memory serves, I think I asked him, can I laugh at that? Because that sounds pretty funny. And he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That,
yeah, definitely have to have you on again. We'll have to do another episode with you guys, especially once we get more of your music digitalized so that we can share it out. And I'm gonna have to go, but we're gonna have to wrap this up. My time is about over. As you probably just heard shouts, my nephew just got in the door. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you for watching. We're gonna try and have these guys on again, time permitting. For Kevin Leis and John Jennings, I am your host, JD. Marcus Frederiksen is going to play us out. ReverbNation.com/Marcus Frederiksen. Share out your favorite song and tag us. And that's the end.
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.